Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. Help promote and rank up my content. So we're going to review Jupiter's Legacy. The entire season. I stayed up, watched the entire damn thing. This show, I'm not familiar with the source material, so I can't really call out too much of the injustices done because Hollywood likes to make drastic departures, gender swaps, race changes, just characters become completely unrecognizable in appearance and personality. Sometimes it can be pretty jarring, pretty despicable. I'm not familiar with the source material. I can't call out what faults, what liberties Hollywood took to cash in on this property, but I'm certainly interested in this show, Jupiter's Legacy. When the trailer dropped, thought it was fascinating, looked awesome. Then I found out Stephen DeKnight is attached to it as showrunner, as creator. Now, Stephen DeKnight, if you're not familiar with him, Daredevil, Spartacus, started out on Buffy, Angel, Smallville. This guy has a legacy of just creative input. He is a very creative individual, so I instantly became highly interested in it, knowing that Stephen DeKnight's working on this. Jupiter's Legacy, obviously a live-action series about superheroes, and don't we have enough of that already? Don't we have enough? But this is something kind of different, kind of its own thing. Doesn't do enough to be completely unique, but does enough just to be certainly interesting and have a place amongst all these other shows to compete with them. And the logline on this one: the first iteration of superheroes has kept the world safe for nearly a century. Now their children must live up to their legacy in an epic drama that spans decades and navigates the dynamics of family, power, and loyalty. Let's talk about the positives of this series. So the show has strong acting, wardrobe, costumes, special effects, excellent lighting and directing, intrigue, drama, a tiny bit of comedy, and a lot of substance and depth provided to characters, a lot of fleshing out the older generation, who they are, where they came from, what they're about, how they got their powers. Things slowly unfold as we jump back and forth between past and present, and I really felt like the past was being authentically represented with a lot of the stuff going on there. It was really interesting to see for the first couple of episodes visiting the past. After a while, it really starts to hurt the show. That we'll get in that in the negatives. However, the older generation here pops out so much more than the new generation. The older generation's very likable and stuff, but there are the compelling argument about, do we abide by this code of conduct, continue to abide by this code of conduct that the superheroes have, that this league has, or do we start killing villains to save ourselves and to save more people and to prevent more deaths? That at a certain point, this is a really compelling argument that a lot of weight is brought to. You see it from the perspective of the older ones, especially, Utopian or himself. I can side with him, I can agree with him, I can see his point, I also can see his son's point. So there's just a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different ways conveyed to look at this. They do an excellent job of showing you it from various angles, different degrees. And that was really interesting to me, this debate about, should we uphold this code at all costs, and then just to save our own asses or to save other people, or should we do away with this code? But at what point does that mean crossing lines there's no coming back from? The first episode, where we go in the first episode of this series, where that ends, this big battle on screen for a TV show, a Justice League level event. You've got them fighting somebody the equivalent of Darkseid or Thanos, and the battle was just so damn good. There's a variety of different characters on here with a variety of different personalities, different powers, different costumes. All just the way it's brought to screen, the way it's translated is absolutely skillful and awesome and so interesting. Just a vast variety of powers and characters, and it's really interesting and well done. The first episode just wants you, hooks you, and makes you want more. It made me want more. Unfortunately, the rest of the show kind of doesn't live up to the first episode, and a lot of the things that happen in that episode, they carry on for the rest of the season, but too much of the show becomes living in the past. Let's talk about the negatives. Alright, so the negatives on this one. Everything on this show is pretty strong except the story that unfolds, the pacing, the world building. A lot isn't established, elaborated on, and it comes at a great cost. The show spends too much time in the past, the majority of the time, so much so that little to no progress is made in the present. On the conflict between the old and new generation over the code of conduct between, to kill or not kill. There's never anything done with the younger generation of characters that makes you want to latch on to them. They're either bland, dull, or just outright pathetic, self-destructive messes. Often in the show, it's said that times are harder now than they've ever been, as an excuse to justify killing or to convey an understanding, but it's never said as to why or how everything is harder than before. Why does the younger generation have it so much harder than the older generation? Why are things so complicated now in comparison to back then? It doesn't really make... It doesn't explain that to the audience. They just keep stroming. Well, it's just harder now. Accept it. Things are just harder than they were before. Accept it. Accept that as an excuse for the lack of everything being explained to you. Just don't do anything to really elaborate on that. Why the new generation has it more difficult than the old. Forget it. Don't ask questions. Just accept that it is harder by default for some reason. And the poorly stringed together journey of the past really consumes and hurts the show. It drags on way too long, and it starts to really become questionable, really strange credibility, really just feels like really loosely pieced together. So, I mean, really, it leaves a lot more to be desired. It leaves you wanting more. Hopefully, season 2 spends a lot less time in the past. If they even get a season 2 now, but they spend so much time in the past that they were hurting the future of the show by not showing the present. Quite frankly, I was surprised because episode 1 just had me sold on it, had me hooked. But at a certain point, at their certain funeral in the past, things really start to get a lot less interesting in the past than they were before. And just the way everything connects together, the way everything's weaved together back then, it's just really, really kind of sloppy and just poorly executed, poorly thought out. I'm shocked by how messy and all over the place it was. A lot of things in here are a little bit jarring, weird, all over the place, and not really that well done. And a lot more should have been brought to certain characters. The younger generation, just really nothing going for them, nothing that really makes them pop or you get hooked on or anything. There's a lot of boring, bland characters in here, and that's sad to say. I had a lot of questions when it came to this show. Where are all the villains coming from? Where are all the heroes coming from? All the people with special powers. They're not all direct descendants of the originals. So things are a little confusing for me in here. And the villain was awesome, seeing him in prison and all that. I would like to see more of him. There are a lot of things that would have benefited this show had they done things differently instead of living in the past where these guys don't even have their superpowers yet. It would have been interesting to see them back when they first got their powers, how things unfolded, but instead it focuses on how they get their powers, and it's just not that damn interesting because it's sloppy all over the place, loosely stringed together. I give this show a 5 out of 10. I'm shocked by Stephen DeKnight. He's always done great shit, from writing to being a showrunner, and this just didn't cut it for me. I do hope this show gets a season 2 where they can find a balance between past and present if they're going to continue to focus on the past so much. But let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? How did you feel about it overall? I think Star Fox would be way more interesting to see more Star Fox, to see more of the of Black Star. Some of these villains, some of these characters, instead of just living in the past the way they were. I think some of these things have a lot of potential. A lot of characters were just wasted, thrown away, and a lot of things weren't really fleshed out because you were too busy fleshing out how these guys got their power when we don't even necessarily, it doesn't need to take up the entire damn season to learn that, a half of each episode or more to learn that. Wasted effort. Like, subscribe, share. Ultimately, like I said, 5 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. It's okay if you love it. It's okay if you hate it. It's okay if you're more like me, very middle of the road. You thought you were about to get something really awesome because the first episode wowed you, or maybe you felt it was shit from the start. Let me know in the comment section below. Stay awesome. Rock on.